If we're looking at ideals and what we think is the actual investment that can create tens of millions of good union jobs in this country, that can shore up our healthcare, our infrastructure, our housing, we're talking about realistically $10 trillion over 10 years.
The last thing the economy needs right now is a big whopping tax increase on all the productive sections of our economy. I'm going to fight them every step of the way because I think this is the wrong prescription for America.
Debate is joined on President Biden's infrastructure bill. We just heard from Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri. Now we're joined by one of the cabinet members leading the charge for this bill, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Secretary Buttigieg, thanks for joining us this morning. You just heard Senator Blunt right there said if you really focused on core infrastructure, you might have a chance of passing this. And it is true that only about 5% of this bill goes for traditional roads and bridges. You've got 20% caregiving for the elderly, about 13% for investments in like the Green New Deal. So why not focus on that traditional core infrastructure?
Well, let's be clear. There's a lot more than roads and bridges that are part of infrastructure. I heard the governor of South Dakota recently saying this is an infrastructure. It's got money for pipes. Well, we believe that pipes are infrastructure because you need water to live, and too many families now live with the threat of lead poisoning. That's absolutely infrastructure. You talk about roads and bridges, but also airports and ports. We need to make sure that we have broadband. I know that traditionally the internet wasn't considered infrastructure because in the Eisenhower years, of course, it didn't exist. But infrastructure investment has to include looking to the future. Railroads seemed futuristic, and then we actually built them. Now they're considered traditional infrastructure. You could say the same about highways. And I've got a lot of respect for Senator Blunt, but I'm going to work to try to persuade him that electric vehicle charging infrastructure is absolutely a core part of how Americans are going to need to get around in the future, and not the distant, far-off future, but right now.
I know you're going to work hard to persuade him. Didn't get any Republicans, though, on the original relief bill. Is it a realistic prospect to expect Republicans are going to come around now?
I think it can be. I'm having a lot of conversations with Republicans in the House and Senate who have been wanting to do something big on infrastructure for years. We may not agree about every piece of it, but this is one area where the American people absolutely want to see us get it done, where members on both sides of the aisle have been talking about getting it done for a long time. And in my view, this is a once-in-a-lifetime moment. I don't think in the next 50 years we're going to see another time when we have this combination of a demonstrated need, bipartisan interest, widespread impatience, and a very supportive president who is committed, by the way, not just to the infrastructure itself, but to the jobs we're going to create. An independent analysis by economists earlier last week said that this will lead to 19 million jobs. And one of the most interesting things is that a lot of the research is also saying that the majority of those jobs will not require a college degree. That's critically important because of all of the changes that are already happening to labor and to manufacturing in this country, to be creating and supporting those jobs for the future. So yes, I think this is something that everybody can get behind, and we're going to keep working to try to earn that support across the aisle. One way or the other, we've got to get it done.
There is some skepticism out there in some parts of the labor community. Sean Steffi from the Boilermakers Local 154 in Pennsylvania talked about this focus on green new jobs, and he said, they keep saying, we're going to transition you into solar jobs. That's not how it works. We build power plants, petrochemical plants, and maintain steel mills. Would you ask Tom Brady to play middle linebacker just because he's a football player?
Yeah, I'm not saying we're going to take a machinist and turn them into a computer programmer. What I'm saying is that we're going to have jobs for insulators on these building retrofits and painters and carpenters, all good union jobs. We're going to have auto workers, union auto workers, I hope, making cars one way or the other. Why not have them leading the revolution into electric vehicles, which, by the way, there is a very hot competition for with China and a lot of other places. We're not talking about extremely mysterious job creation here. We're talking about jobs that already exist that we can understand. If you're a specialist in dealing with mining, we got to cap a lot of mines too, and that's going to create a lot of jobs. So I understand there is hesitation, especially because, frankly, there have been a lot of moments where promises have not been kept to labor, which is one of the reasons why I think having the most pro-labor president we've had in a very long time is going to work very well for workers, and it's one of the reasons why we're seing workers right right there alongside a lot of other advocacy and community groups lining up in support of this bill.
Biggest debates now are over how to pay for it. The margins are narrow. If you don't get any Republicans to vote for those tax increases, you need every Democrat. But senators like Joe Manchin have already signaled that 28% corporate tax is too high. You can't pass it without every Democratic senator if Republicans are opposed.
I think we're going to find a really good, strong deal space on this because, again, most Americans want to get it done. And one of the things that's really striking, I don't spend too much time looking at polls, but I saw some research come back showing that the American people like this plan even more when you explain how we're going to pay for it. And the reason is simple, which is that corporations, we all know, have not been paying their fair share. A lot of multinational corporations have been paying zero on billions of dollars in profits. They're paying more than a firefighter or a less than a firefighter or a school teacher, not just in percent terms, but in dollar terms, and that's wrong. So we're going to reset the corporate tax rate to a rate that is, by the way, still lower than it's been for most of my lifetime, and has been a rate where America has been perfectly competitive for decades. And in doing that, create, again, by some estimates, 19 million good-paying jobs, most of which don't require somebody to have a college degree.
Several House Democrats, though, have said they won't support the bill unless you reinstate the federal income tax deduction for state and local taxes. Probably enough to sink the bill if they don't support it. What do you say to those Democrats?
Well, look, we can look at any number of ideas. We know that this is entering a legislative process where we're going to be hearing from both sides of the aisle, and I think you'll find the president's got a very open mind. But time is of the essence, so we'll look at these ideas on how to pay for it. We'll look at ideas on where the investments ought to be, too. But the president is hoping for major progress from Congress before Memorial Day, and we can't allow this thing to just keep dragging on because the need is there today. Each passing day that our infrastructure crumbles, that hurts our economy and it puts our safety in danger. And again, the American people are really impatient to get this done. We're determined to make sure that Infrastructure Week is no longer a punchline around Washington. That's what this robust plan will do, and it's time for action.
And to those progressives like AOC, we showed her at the top, she says $10 trillion is needed right now. This isn't big enough. Your response?
Yeah, there are obviously a lot of people on the other side of the aisle saying this is too big, too bold, and then some of our friends on our side of the aisle are saying it should be even bolder. Again, that's a natural part of this conversation in this process, but let me stress, this is the biggest investment in American job creation proposed or if achieved since World War II. This is a huge deal, and what it would mean to have 10,000 bridges around America replaced, what it would mean or improved, what it would mean to get broadband out to every single American, what it would mean to have zero lead pipes remaining in those water service lines is absolutely enormous, as is that 19 million job figure.
Secretary Buttigieg, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.